Every couple of months, I try and do a little update video where I sit down and I talk about where things are at with the channel, what I've been up to, how things are going, and the next couple of months ahead. The last one of these I did kind of had a bit of a grabby title, if you will. It was called I'm Taking a Huge Risk Making This Video. And the reason for that was I completely changed how my YouTube content upload schedule looked this year. Up until this point, for the past several years, since roughly 2022, I have been uploading almost daily, if not multiple times daily. Before that, the channel was largely VODs, with the occasional news video or other things sporadically around that. If you actually look at my extras channel, which is just my VODs channel, my video on demand for just live stream archives, that was very reminiscent of what my main channel looked like in 2021 and 2022. Except with the occasional thing around the edge when I had time to edit something, because I streamed a lot more days of the week back then. Alongside of talking about that risk video and how my content has changed, I also want to talk about how far I've come, how long I've been doing this for, and how long I've been full-time. I've got a little bit of reminiscing I want to do in this video, and I've got kind of a couple different topics to cover, so let's just dive into the first one. The first thing I want to cover in depth is the shift in content styles. So for the last several years, as I said, it's been almost daily. And the main change that I made up until this point was that I stopped uploading VODs on the main channel. It actually hurt the main channel's income quite considerably, and the VODs have never made as much money since, because these longer videos that get very large amounts of watch time tend to do better numbers to dollars ratio. So the main channel took quite the hit in 2023 when I made that shift. But overall, it has been a positive shift because the growth rate of the main channel has increased, the number of people sticking around increased, and the general just views got better. So it was a good shift in the long run, even though it hurt the income of the channel. But then this past summer, I made another big shift. I've completely changed my upload schedule, and I've also completely changed the style of content I would do. I used to describe myself almost as a content mill. Content was very low effort, videos were very quick. I would record something in under an hour, edit it in under an hour, and have it up. I would make my $8 from that video, and I would make 2 more in the same day. And that was how I worked for a really long time. The problem with this is it turns everything into a constant marathon. There's no longer just a period of time where you're working, you release something, and then you work on the next thing. It was always just a go, 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 go. And this led to a lot of, I think, very low effort content, and people can tell, right? And so numbers were starting to get kind of bad on the main channel, and I was looking at that and going, I don't think this is sustainable in the long run. So I took a big risk, and I completely changed how I upload my content. Now, what I do is I record a separate feed of gameplay outside of my streams. And this is within OBS using a very sketchy plugin. I'll actually link to it if you want. It's called Source Record. And essentially what it does is it's a filter for OBS, and a different scene that isn't the one that's active can record in the background. So I'm constantly recording all of my live stream footage of Dwarf Fortress or any other video or any other game that I think would fit a video like that. And it has led to me being able to create I played the worst biome in Dwarf Fortress video, or I played the worst map in Dwarf Fortress video, which did very, very, very well, and is still doing well. That video still gets about 2,000 views every other day. And then I made the video where I started a cult in Dwarf Fortress, and then after that, I released my 10 years following a single dwarf. I think after that, there's been a little bit of a gap because I went on vacation for 2 weeks and decided I wanted to make some pretty major life changes on top of that, but since coming back, I've now recently released another video in this format with a different video game, Caves of Cud, called Caves of Cud, a beginner-friendly experience, which has very much underperformed compared to the Dwarf Fortress videos, but I kind of was expecting that. I wanted to get a video out about Caves of Cud in that format in time for release, so hopefully it gets an algorithm push when that game releases and people start searching for Caves of Cud, presuming that happens. But how has the change been, largely? I can show you some graphs here, if you give me a few seconds. So because I don't want to show the full numbers, I'm not going to have everything on screen, so we're just going to work with these little screenshots here. This is my 365 days worth of views on the YouTube channel. Now, when you look at this initially, you're going to go, it doesn't seem like it's changed. In fact, there's a really big spike there in April. That spike is when I released a whole bunch of adventure mode tutorials, which largely ended up not being that good for me. It was a big spike of views in a short period of time, but those videos were all very short and didn't perform very well on a video-to-video basis. So money was actually pretty bad during that time. If I look at watch time, you can see that there was also a very big spike in watch time, but roughly end of July, you can see that the watch time goes up considerably. Same with daily subscribers. Before I made the big shift, all of these numbers were significantly lower on average on the day-to-day. Yeah, there was a spike in April, but it was minimal, and I actually lost subscribers after that. And then things just were very slow, growth-wise. But with the shift in content, it's now daily subscribers are up a lot. People coming in and discovering the channel every day is up significantly. And same with watch time. The watch time going up considerably helps revenue go up considerably. The main takeaway from all of these stats is that my income hasn't been this high since Dwarf Fortress initially launched, at least on the YouTube side of things. YouTube is what causes direct growth on the Twitch side, which has been a net positive. In fact, the past few months have been my best months on YouTube in the past 2 to 3 years. So overall, I would say that the big risk was a success. And now I'm moving forward into a new era of the styles of content that I make. The way these videos work is they're big enough and have a high enough baseline view count that whenever Dwarf Fortress goes on sale, they get a considerable bump. This happened the last time and actually doubled my daily income for a couple of days on the YouTube side of things. The problem with this type of content is the amount of lead time. It takes me a month, maybe longer, to make one of these videos, because I am streaming 35 to 40 hours a week. So if I'm streaming 40 hours a week, then around that, I have to make time to edit videos, which means I either need to stream less one week or I need to work more a week. And generally what's happened so far up until this point with these videos is I overwork myself. And this has resulted in the feedback that I'm getting for these videos being good, and generally people really like them. But I've had one sentiment that's been quite consistent. I don't know how to end these videos very well. Personally, I feel that the first video ended really well, and I'm very happy with the ending that I came up with for the video about COG, the 10-year fortress. However, I personally feel that Gortusk suffered a little bit in that kind of regard. And I also feel that the Caves of Cud video just kind of got lost at a point. But people still seem happy with it, and the content is doing well. So I don't know if this is necessarily something I should be concerned about, or if it's just par for the course. And my video editing style and something that I will get better at with time. I will say that just about every single one of these videos has burnt me out to the point where I am exhausted by the end of editing it. Gortusk especially, and the video with COG were like 60-hour editing sessions. But the view count that they've gained has made them more than worth it. Financially, stats-wise, channel growth-wise, it is worth the amount of hours that I put into these videos. But I need that to be consistent for these videos to maintain and sustain. So I need to be on my feet and try and be creative with them to keep them interesting. And also, when I have the time, try and do other videos that don't take as much time to edit. As an example, the Caves of Cud video that I put out took about a third of the time to edit as one of the Dwarf Fortress videos. So I don't need that video to do as well. Currently, it hasn't even made its money back. I had to commission a little bit of art for the thumbnail, and I haven't paid that back yet with its ad revenue because it's gotten less than 10,000 views. But hopefully, with time, it'll sit in that playlist and it'll slowly grow and it'll eventually pay itself off. Granted, it only needs to make another $5 to break even at this point, but then it's covering my hour count, which was about 15 hours of editing on that video. Very much at this point, when it comes to the shift in content on the YouTube channel, I am very happy with the outcome. I think that the stats have been very positive. I think that the response has been very positive, and I think that the income that I'm getting from these videos has also been a positive and beneficial factor. So all in all, I have to say thanks to those of you who didn't unsubscribe when I put out the big risk video, because it means a lot that you've stuck around, and I did lose about 150 subscribers when I put that video up, stating that the content was going to change a lot. So thanks to those of you who had faith in me, and welcome to all the newcomers who have come on since then, because we have gone up by about 10,000 subscribers in the last 4 months, which is huge for me. Currently, I'm recording this on the 23rd of November, and that is important and noteworthy because as of the 17th of November, I've been making content for 11 years. It's actually probably longer than that, because I had a couple of YouTube channels before, but I started taking content and creating stuff seriously as a part of my life 11 years ago. November 17th, 2013, I hadn't quite moved out yet. I was living at home, and I started streaming to the channel known as Blind IRL. At the time, I used the username, and I was just a viewer, would go around and watch other streams and see what other people were doing. And I streamed some League of Legends. I also streamed some Binding of Isaac and a game called Ziggurat. I played a few different indie games, nothing particularly seriously. My streams were at most an hour long, maybe 2. The bitrate was terrible. I think I streamed at like a 400 bitrate because at the time living at home, my parents' internet was not fast. The stream would crash constantly. I had several streams that never even finished because I just cut out at some point and never noticed. I had a stream that I accidentally left on for 12 hours while I was sleeping. You know, the good old days. I had no idea what I was doing. It was just something that looked fun, and I was doing it with my friends. Fast forward a couple of months, and I moved out at the beginning of 2014. And I moved into a small apartment, and the first thing I did was get much faster internet. It was at that point that I streamed some Risk of Rain and played more games on the internet. Again, the streams were never long, maybe an hour and a half at most. Some of them I didn't even use a microphone. I would just stream and have a friend sitting in chat and tab out and talk to them. And I had 1 or 2 people watching. I remember at the time, Lethal Frag was finishing his full year challenge, and I was sitting there being very jealous while he was sitting there with 15,000 concurrent viewers, and I was sitting there with 2. But it was an interesting time. It was a lot of learning and a lot of like technical knowledge of how streaming worked was gained at that time for me. Then I had to move again and ended up not having a place to live properly permanently for a while. All my computer stuff ended up in long-term storage. So it wouldn't be until November 14th, 2014 that I would pick back up streaming. At the time, a friend of mine who went by the name ZBlurryZ was a regular at my place of work. I was working night shift at McDonald's. Blurry, who I can link his channel down below, even though he doesn't make content these days, at the time was streaming on Twitch. And he was streaming pretty inconsistently. He also had a few YouTube channels that he'd done in the past, and he used to show up, admittedly quite drunk, late at night at the McDonald's that I worked at, and we would chat, because we were both into video games. This was at the time when Vine was a thing, and he would show up with a friend of his who would just sit around and make Vines and generally be obnoxious, throw fries at the wall and whatnot, and we'd make him clean it up. And me and Blurry would talk about streaming and the concept of streaming. And we kind of dared each other. All right, we've both done this in the past. We've both tried this in the past. Let's both do a 30-day stream challenge. So we both started streaming. 30 days later, I was still streaming. He made it, I think it was about 18 before something came up. I think his girlfriend at the time wanted him to go do something, so he took a day off and never really got back to it. I never stopped. If you go to my channel right now and you watch me stream on Twitch, there's a number in the title. That is the number of streams that I've done, which started back on that original 30-day stream challenge. That was 4,024 days ago at the time of recording. And for a little bit of context here, the number currently sitting on my channel for the number of streams I've done is 2,524. So yes, I have definitely taken some days off. The first few years I streamed daily. From 2014 until about 2016, I streamed daily. I eventually cut that down to just 5 days a week because I wanted to spend some time with my girlfriend. And as of 2016, I cut my full-time night shift job down to 3 nights a week. And one of those nights was a 4-hour shift. 2016 is when I consider myself going full-time on Twitch because I went from streaming 7 days a week, maybe 20 hours a week, down to about 5 days a week, but streaming about 50 hours a week while also working the night shift. I would stream all of the hours my ex was at her job and then some. This continued into the late 2016 where I went to my first TwitchCon. I met a lot of people from the Kerbal Space Program community and made a lot of connections there, as well as introduced myself to some streamers that I'd been watching for a long time. This was the first real windfall I ever got because I started getting raids at that time. So it was around when Twitch was starting to tease the concept of the affiliate program. Even though I was far away from becoming a Twitch partner, things kind of started progressing from there. When the affiliate program launched, I got enough money in payouts for the first payout in about 90 seconds from filling out the paperwork. I got the subscriptions as soon as those were available, and within the first month, I sat steady at 100 subscribers. This progressed at about the same rate until the release of RimWorld, where numbers kind of increased a little bit because I'd been streaming quite a bit of RimWorld at the time. Numbers went up to about 120 subscribers, 130 subscribers. And in early 2018, I quit the night shift job. Fast forward up to 2020, my ex had moved out in 2019, and I'd been streaming Dwarf Fortress now since 2017. I committed full-time to Dwarf Fort. I honestly didn't expect my channel to do super hot doing that because at the time, everything was very ASCII. And yes, the Steam version had been announced and I'd been streaming it for a couple of years, but it was always one of the games that was harder to pull an audience. I decided to dedicate to it, and it eventually panned out into what I've built today. One of the biggest challenges for me throughout creating content is just being siloed. I'm very stuck in one particular place. If I make content that deviates from the norm, it's much harder for me to pull the audience that I have built over the years into the game. This isn't so detrimental on Twitch because I have a core audience that shows up, but numbers will always be lower if it's not a Dwarf Fortress stream. The same thing is happening on the YouTube channel when I'm making these large videos. Making the video about Caves of Cud, it's a harder sell to the baked-in audience because they see a thing that they don't recognize and they don't bother clicking it, and then YouTube doesn't recommend it. So the possible reach for a video like the Caves of Cud one I just made is smaller than the reach of a Dwarf Fortress video. But that's something that I'm working on and hope to remedy with time. As I get known as somebody who makes these big videos about interesting in-depth games, hopefully eventually the video format itself will be enough of a draw and less the game. I was a very different person back in 2013. I was a lot younger, you know? It was 11 years ago. I'm 30 now. I was 19. I was a lot more hot-headed. I was a lot less patient. My hair was much browner and way shorter, and generally, I would say that I was a much meaner person. I think that growing up is something that we all have to do with time, and I think that I'm very much no exception. I think in the last few years, I've matured a lot, and there are absolutely some people from the early days, be that 2016, 2017, 2018, right up through 2021, 2022. I think there are some people who got initially bad impressions of me because I can be a very mean person. I think largely this is due to past trauma, being overworked, constant exhaustion, especially in the 2016 era where I was still working and streaming way more than I do now. And part of that is general mental health and therapy. In the last year, I've gone to therapy. I now have several diagnoses which explain how my brain works and make it easier for me to communicate with people. I've done a little bit of behavioral therapy, and I've had several counselors. And I think that as a person, in general, I am the calmest and most respectful to the audience that I've ever been. I think this is a personal thing that I need to work through, and I personally feel that I've been doing a very good job of that. Every now and again, in my comments section on YouTube, somebody creeps up from the old days, and they just call me an asshole. And honestly, they're well within their rights to do that because that's the impression that they got. But I do wish that they would give me a second chance because these days, I am a very different person than I was 5 years ago or even 2 years ago. So again, I know I've said this already once, but thank you to those of you who've stuck with me through my bad days and the good days because I think that you are enabling me to make some really cool changes and do some really cool things and create some things that people really like watching. So that really means a lot to me. When it comes to the future of the content, these movies, these bigger videos, I would like them to be more diverse. Yeah, making the videos about Dwarf Fortress is great, and I absolutely intend to continue doing those. The tutorials are something that I will do when they are relevant, but I'm going to probably focus on more of a 30-minute kind of all-encompassing format instead of the quick tutorial format. If a video needs to be updated or if a quick tutorial makes sense, I will do that, but it isn't the focus of the channel anymore. Tutorials make a lot of sense when the game initially releases because nobody playing the game knows how to play it. Now, people are coming in because they have friends who already know how to play it. Maybe they've already watched my tutorials. And I've also got this back catalog of tutorials that is still, in my opinion, more than adequate to get somebody into the game. Making very small, specific, hyper-specific tutorials is just kind of not something that has a lot of purpose or need in the industry right now. As new mechanics for the game come out, these tutorials might make sense again. But for right now, I don't think that's the case. So the focus currently is on these bigger videos, especially if I can sneak tutorial-style content into them like I did with the Caves of Cud video, and multiple of the Dwarf Fortress videos. Little explainers that explain the more in-depth mechanics that I'm doing to contort the game to craft that story, but at the same time not just making it tutorial-focused content. I think that that is a very valuable way to help people enjoy a game versus just, here's the very boilerplate explaining how this thing works. The last thing I would like to cover in this video is the future, the next 6 months. What do the next 6 months look like? At some point in that window, Adventure Mode is going to release. I have an Adventure Mode video fully recorded, I just need to edit it. It's the one where I recover the blockade shield. I have done that, that is completed, and I have all of the saves in case I need to go re-record something. But I haven't edited it or uploaded it yet. And why is that? Earlier I was talking about how different content is a harder sell, even if it's similar content. I want to release that video around the time Adventure Mode releases. In fact, I might re-record one chunk of it to have the full UI updates that have been added in since. I want that video to make sense to be uploaded when I upload it. So whenever there's a release date for Adventure Mode, that is when I will jump onto the grindstone and finish that video. The next few videos I have in the chamber are the Haunted Fort I did for Halloween, and currently I have a Gremlin Baron that I need to figure out something with. There's also some footage of a fortress that I did called Seed Vault about a goblin that kept showing up and trying to kidnap my kids, which might make it into a short video, but that would be quite small. Not very long, maybe 10 minutes. Caves of Cud is also going to be leaving early access, and depending on how my currently uploaded Caves of Cud videos do, I very much will likely be making another Caves of Cud video in the next month or few. I don't know what format that's going to take exactly. I don't know if it's going to be a permadeath run, a storyline run, or even just a full playthrough of the game on roleplay or something, and just edit it into a movie. I could do that if there's interest. Reading all of the text and everything. Be kind of a audiobook. It's funny because I think the total hour count of that would actually be a smaller amount of footage than a lot of the Dwarf Fortress videos I do, so it wouldn't be unreasonable at all. The next few months are going to be major videos. The cadence is going to be every other month to every month, depending on how long it takes me to edit them and my creative need. The future of the Fortress videos are going to continue monthly. I realize they don't perform as well as the big videos, but largely I think that's fine. Dwarf Fortress news will continue as it always has, and as patches come up, I will make little videos recapping them. And I need to get Zach and Tarn, or at the very least just Tarn, on the stream again. I need to talk with him, because it's been a while. If anybody's wondering why I haven't had Tarn on for an interview, I know I've had some people asking, is Tarn comes on when there's reason for him to be there. During the development of Fortress mode, it was quarterly updates. And while they were gearing up to launch, it was very much progress reports. Once the game launched, it was, okay, what are you fixing now? And now all that we'd be talking about is basically what he's covered in his own little quarterly video, is just, these are all the updates that have gone into the beta branch. Adventure mode isn't out yet. Once adventure mode is out, I want to have Tarn on so that I can talk about what he's working on next and what the process of working on adventure mode was like. Plus, the guy's gone through a lot of major life changes, and frankly, I don't want to take up any of his time right now. Moving, getting married, and getting visas, that's a lot of stress. So I just want to stay out of his hair. I'm just an annoying press guy. Let him finish the adventure mode beta. Once that's into the mainline branch, we'll have him on. We'll talk to him on a stream, get some viewer questions in there, and that'll be a lot of fun, as it always has been. As far as me goes and other content that I used to make, I used to do a lot of interviews with game developers, and I really like those. That's some of my favorite content I've ever created. But being completely frank, it takes a lot of time to make one of those videos, as well as a lot of effort and research into recording them, because I have to play a lot of gameplay of the game that I'm recording one on in order to release it. I'm going to be very selective on the games that I cover in this format going forward. I'm not just going to play 4 hours of a game, take down some notes, call up a developer on Discord, and then talk and then make a video. I did that for a while. I don't see those as valuable. I think that videos like the one that I did with the developer of Songs of Six, as an example, actually has some value, because that was a game that I put quite a bit of time in. Same with the developer of Jupiter Hell. Even though that video never performed as well and certainly didn't make its money back, those are passion projects. And I'm probably going to do more with the developer of Jupiter Hell, because he's remaking Doom the Roguelike as DRL, and I would like to cover that around the time it releases, because the whole idea of remaking a fan game as a demake of your sequel, anyway, is kind of amazing to me. So I will have to talk to him at some point. I will continue doing those interviews. They're just not the priority, because I don't expect them to perform as well as the videos that I need to keep the channel chugging along and paying the bills. The last thing I want to cover is me personally in personal life. I'm currently closing a mortgage right now. In the next few months, I might be a homeowner. I'm trying to buy an apartment. I'm trying to move out of this tiny box that I've been in for a very long time. And so I'm going to be going through some pretty considerable life changes. I'm going to be moving to a different city, and I'm going to be completely uprooting my life, picking it up, and walking away. And so there will be some intermittent shifts in the content. Streams might not be as consistent and as long for a little bit, because if I need to go to a bank, they close at 4, I can't stream till 7. So with all of that in your awareness space, all of the history that I've talked about, and all of the path forward stuff, I hope that this didn't rattle on too long, and I hope that this has been an interesting video. The last thing I want to do is kind of a promo. I have a website where I write about video games, as well as talk about my feelings and things that I've done that past week. If you are interested in reading my unhinged rants about video games, the occasional little interview about a video game, I've ran several text interviews on there now, as well as just writing about little games that I've been playing off stream, such as the snowboarding indie game, Tricky Madness. Hey, do you like SSX? It's that. I also sell premium memberships, which I need to figure out better perks for, but if you pay for a premium membership, you'll get links to unlisted trailers for my videos early when I have them, as well as a monthly stats breakdown about my content. It only costs about $30 a year to get into the base tier of that, and it does help me get a mortgage because I get almost 100% of that money. Also, I sell mugs. If you Want to buy some mugs? This is the Vial Forza mug. It's my most popular mug. This is the very big mug size. It comes in more normal mug sizes too if you want a mug instead of a mug that you can fit a mug in. Thank you very much for watching this little quarterly report. I'll have another one up in about, I don't know, 3 or 4 months. Talk to you then.